The message came on a Tuesday. Dr. Allison Ward was finishing her coffee when the computers at NASA's Deep Space Listening Post began to light up. At first, she thought it was a glitch. The pattern was too regular, too deliberate to be natural cosmic noise. "Hey Sam, are you seeing this?" she called to her colleague. Sam Miller looked up from his station, his eyes growing wide as he saw the readings. "That's not one of ours." The signal was weak but clear, a repeating mathematical sequence that couldn't be explained by any known natural phenomenon. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed it. Within days, the world's best scientists agreed. This was not random. Someone, or something, was trying to talk to anyone who would listen. Jack Peterson hadn't slept in 3 days. As the lead codebreaker for NASA's first contact team, he hadn't left his desk since the signal arrived. Empty coffee cups surrounded his computer as he ran another analysis. "It's a language," he finally announced to the crowded room of scientists. "Not words like we use, but pure math. Universal concepts." On the big screen, he displayed his translation work. "These symbols represent numbers. These represent celestial bodies. And this," he pointed to a repeating pattern, "is a distress call." The room fell silent. "They're asking for help," Jack continued. "They've been asking for over 400 years. President Laura Williams sat quietly as the briefing continued in the White House Situation Room. The message had been decoded further, revealing the desperate plea from a species calling themselves the Larians. They described an enemy called the Vex, a hive-mind entity consuming entire worlds as it expanded across the galaxy. "They sent this message in all directions," explained Dr. Ward, who now led the analysis team. "They had no idea if anyone would hear it or be able to help. It's like a bottle thrown into the cosmic ocean. And we just happened to find it," asked the president. "Yes, Mom. The signal has been traveling for centuries. The Larians are fighting a losing war against these Vex creatures. According to their message, they've already lost hundreds of worlds." General Frank Robinson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. "What exactly do they expect us to do about it? We barely have the technology to reach Mars." "That's the interesting part," Jack said. "The message includes technical specifications, blueprints, essentially, ways to improve our technology. They're offering to help us help them." Outside the White House, crowds had gathered as news of the alien message spread. Some carried signs welcoming the aliens, others warning of invasion. Churches filled with the faithful seeking guidance, while bars filled with those seeking liquid courage. The United Nations assembled an emergency session. For once, old enemies found themselves united by a common question: how should humanity respond? Admiral Henry Clark summarized the military's position. "We don't know if we can trust these Larians, but we know they're desperate. Desperate enough to share advanced technology with a species they've never met." After 3 days of debate, the vote was unanimous. Earth would answer. On a clear night, 1 week after the signal was first detected, humanity sent its response using the newly enhanced transmission array in South Africa. The message was simple: "Larians, we are humans from Earth. We hear your call. We will help. Tell us how." No one knew if the Larians still existed to receive the reply. No one knew if Earth had just volunteered for its own destruction. But for the first time in history, humanity spoke as one voice to the stars. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, something answered back. 8 years. That was all the time Earth had. The Larian response arrived 3 months after humanity's message, carrying both hope and terrible news. The Vex were moving faster than expected. They would reach the nearest star system to Earth in just 8 years. "We need to be ready," said President Williams to the Emergency Global Summit. "We need to build ships, weapons, and train soldiers for space combat." Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked through her underground lab in Arizona. Hundreds of engineers and scientists worked day and night on a single project, turning the Larian blueprints into real weapons. "The antimatter cannon is our biggest challenge," She explained to the visiting General Robinson. The Larians use materials we've never seen before. Can you make it work? He asked. Elena nodded slowly. We can, but we'll need to change the design to use Earth materials. It won't be as powerful, but it will work. All across the planet, similar projects were underway. In Russia, they built engines that could travel faster than light. In China, they created armor that could withstand space battles. In Brazil, they designed the ships that would carry humans to war. Captain Noah Winters had been a fighter pilot before the message changed everything. Now he trained other pilots to fight in space. Forget everything you know about air combat, he told his students at the new Space Defense Academy. In space, there is no up or down. You can move in any direction. The enemy will come from everywhere. His students, the best pilots from every nation, watched as he demonstrated in the new zero-gravity training chamber. Many got sick during their first sessions. By the third month, they were fighting like they had been born in space. Meanwhile, regular people helped too. Factories around the world stopped making cars and started making ship parts. Farmers grew extra food to be stored for the coming war. Children collected metal in massive recycling drives. We're all in this together became the world's motto. 5 years after the message, the first human warship was ready. They named it the EDF Defiance. EDF stood for Earth Defense Force. The ship was not pretty. It looked like someone had put together pieces from different puzzles. But it worked. She may not look like much, said Admiral Clark during the launch ceremony, but she's the most advanced ship humans have ever built. 6 more ships followed over the next 2 years, each one better than the last as humans learned and improved. The fleet was small compared to what the Larians described about the Vex, but it was all Earth could manage. President Williams, now in her second term, gave a speech as the 7th ship launched. When the Larians sent their message, they didn't know who would answer. They certainly didn't expect humans, a species that had barely reached its own moon. But here we are, building a fleet to fight an enemy we've never seen, to help people we've never met. She paused, looking at the massive ship rising into the sky. The Vex think they're coming to find easy prey. Instead, they'll find humanity. We may not have the most advanced technology. We may not have the biggest fleet, but we have something the Vex have never faced before: human determination. On the main screen behind her, a message from the Larians appeared. We have sent coordinates for our meeting point. We will await your arrival. Captain Winters stood on the bridge of the EDF Challenger, the newest and fastest ship in the fleet. He looked at his crew, men and women from different countries, different backgrounds, all united for one mission. Navigation, he ordered. Set course for the Larian coordinates. The ships lifted off from Earth, carrying humanity's best hope. No one knew if they would ever return, but everyone knew they had to try. The journey to meet the Larians had begun. The journey took 3 months. 3 months of darkness, stars, and the unknown. When the 7 Earth ships finally arrived at the meeting point, everyone fell silent. The Larian Sanctuary Station hung in space like a giant crystal snowflake. Light danced across its surface, beautiful and alien. Around it floated hundreds of ships, most damaged but still functional. This is Captain Noah Winters of the Earth Defense Force. We received your call for help, he said into the communication system. For a long moment, there was silence. Then a voice responded, strangely musical but speaking perfect English. Humans of Earth, you have come. We did not believe you would. 2 days later, Captain Winters led the human delegation onto the Larian station. With him were Commander Olivia Martinez, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, and 5 others representing Earth's regions. The Larians were not what anyone expected, tall beings made of crystal-like material that glowed from within. They had no mouths but communicated through light patterns that their technology translated into sound. The Larian leader, who called himself Trelna, approached the humans. For centuries, we sent our message to the stars. Many heard, None came. Until you. We couldn't ignore someone who needed help, said Commander Martinez. Trelna's body flickered with blue light. You are surprising. Your ships are simple, your weapons primitive. Yet you traveled across vast distances to face an enemy that has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. Captain Winters smiled. That's what humans do. The Larians took the humans to a large meeting room where maps of the galaxy floated in the air. Trelna explained their situation. Once, the Larians controlled over 1,000 worlds. Now, only 30 remain. Trelna pointed to a dark area on the map. The Vex consume everything in their path. They learn and adapt to every defense we create. How many ships do they have? Asked Dr. Rodriguez. Thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. The human delegation exchanged worried looks. Earth had sent only 7. We have been fighting defensively for 400 years, continued another Larian named Selkvin. We retreat, we hide, we survive. But we cannot win. Commander Patel, Earth's military strategist, stepped forward. That's your problem. You've been fighting logically, predictably. The Vex learned your patterns. And what would you suggest? Asked Trelna, light patterns swirling skeptically across his crystalline body. Chaos, said Captain Winters. Humans are good at that. He unfolded paper maps on the table. Actual paper, which made the Larians lean in with curiosity. You fight like this. Winters drew straight, organized battle formations. The Vex expect this. But we fight like this. He drew seemingly random patterns, attack vectors that made no logical sense. This strategy is flawed, said Selkvin. It defies military logic. Exactly, smiled Winters. The Vex have never fought humans before. They've never faced an enemy who does the unexpected, the illogical. Sometimes the best move is the one that makes no sense, added Commander Martinez. We call it thinking outside the box. The Larians' light patterns flickered rapidly as they communicated among themselves. Finally, Trelna spoke. We detect a Vex scout fleet approaching Proxima Station. They will arrive in 14 Earth days. This would be a suitable test of your unusual methods. Perfect, said Captain Winters. Let's show them what humans can do. As the meeting ended, a young Larian approached Dr. Rodriguez. Why did you come? Your world is not yet threatened. You could have hidden. Dr. Rodriguez thought for a moment. When someone calls for help, humans answer. It's that simple. The Larian's lights pulsed gently. If all humans are like you, perhaps the galaxy has hope after all. The first battle against the Vex was set. Humanity would soon face an enemy unlike any they had known. But they had something the Vex had never encountered, human unpredictability. And that might just change everything. Proxima Station was once a busy trading post. Now it floated empty around a dead planet, a perfect location for the first battle against the Vex. 7 human ships and 23 Larian vessels waited in position. Captain Winters stood on the bridge of the EDF Challenger, watching his crew prepare for combat. All ships report ready, Captain, said Lieutenant Diana Chen from her communication station. Good. Remember, everyone, we stick to the plan until Admiral Powell gives the signal. Then we do what humans do best. Create chaos. Asked Officer Ben Ramirez with a grin. Exactly. Admiral Kevin Powell, commanding the EDF Defiance, addressed the combined fleet. Larian allies, human crews. The Vex will arrive in approximately 30 minutes. They don't know we're waiting. They expect to find an abandoned station. Instead, they'll find us. The minutes ticked by slowly. Some crew members prayed. Others checked their systems again and again. A few told jokes to ease the tension. Contact, called out Diana suddenly. Multiple ships emerging from hyperspace. The view screens filled with the sight of Vex ships. They looked like black clouds with sharp edges, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. First a dozen appeared, then 50. then over 200. There are so many, whispered someone on the bridge. Captain Winters kept his voice steady. Doesn't matter how many there are. Stick to the plan. The Larian vessels moved into their standard defensive formation, a beautiful, logical pattern developed over centuries of space warfare. The human ships, however, scattered to seemingly random positions. The Vex attacked as expected, targeting the central Larian command ships. Their weapons fired strange dark energy that ate through shields. They're hitting the Larians hard, reported Tactical Officer Steve Garcia. 3 Larian ships already damaged. Admiral Powell's voice came through the communication system. EDF Challenger, execute Maneuver Alpha. You heard the Admiral, said Captain Winters. Let's show these Vex something new. The Challenger suddenly accelerated at full speed directly toward the center of the Vex formation. Every rule of space combat said this was suicide. The Vex ships paused, as if confused by this illogical attack. All power to forward shields, ordered Winters as they plunged into the enemy fleet. The Challenger tore through 3 Vex ships before emerging on the other side. The unexpected move had created a gap in the Vex formation. Now, called Admiral Powell to all ships. Execute random attack patterns. The human fleet erupted into action. Each ship followed its own unpredictable course. The EDF Liberty spun in spirals while firing in all directions. The EDF Courage cut its engines, drifted past Vex ships, then suddenly restarted with weapons blazing. Lieutenant Ryan Kelly led a squadron of smaller fighter craft. Box formation is boring anyway, he told his pilots. Everyone pick a target and get creative. His fighters scattered, each one flying patterns that made no tactical sense but were impossible to predict. The Vex, used to fighting the logical Larians, couldn't adjust to human randomness. Their formations broke apart as they tried to track the erratic human ships. It's working, said Diana. The Vex are confused. A Larian commander's voice came through. We do not understand your tactics, humans, but they are effective. We will adapt. Several Larian ships broke from their traditional formations and began mimicking the human randomness, adding to the chaos. After 6 hours of battle, the unthinkable happened. The Vex ships began to retreat, disappearing back into hyperspace. They're running away, said Officer Ramirez in disbelief. A cheer went up across the human fleet. For the first time in 4 centuries, the Vex had been defeated. As the crews celebrated, Captain Winters received a message from Trelna. In all our history fighting the Vex, we have never seen them retreat. What you call chaos may be our salvation. We wish to learn more of human warfare. Captain Winters smiled. This is just the beginning. The first battle was won, but the war had only just begun. 6 months and 7 battles later, the combined human Larian fleet gathered at Haven, one of the few Larian worlds still untouched by war. Representatives from both species met in a large crystal dome to discuss the changing nature of the conflict. The Vex are adapting, said Dr. Elena Rodriguez, pointing to holographic images of new enemy ships. These designs weren't in any previous battles. The new Vex vessels were larger, with multiple weapon points and stronger shields. Their black surfaces now had patterns that seemed to shift and change, making them harder to target. They're learning from their defeats, said General Peter Montgomery, who had arrived from Earth with reinforcements. They're trying to counter our randomness. Trelna's crystal body pulsed with concerned light patterns. This is how the Vex have always operated. They study, adapt, and overcome. It is why we have been losing for centuries. Then we need to become even more unpredictable, said Captain Andrea Collins of the newly arrived EDF Vengeance. We need to surprise them again. The Larian High Commander, Selkvin, seemed uncertain. Your tactics defy conventional military wisdom. Our warriors find it difficult to abandon centuries of training. That's exactly why the Vex couldn't beat you completely, replied Montgomery. You were predictable, but you were good at what you did. Now imagine combining your technical skill with our unpredictability. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward with a new proposal. We've been studying Larian technology. What if we combine it with human tactics in ways neither of us would normally consider? Her plan was bold. The Larians had jump drives that could move ships instantly through space. Humans suggested modifying them to create random space-time distortions during battle. The Larians had powerful antimatter weapons. Humans proposed programming them with semi-random detonation patterns. "This is highly irregular," said Sulkvin, light flickering with concern. "That's the point," smiled Rodriguez. They called it Operation Wildcard. For the next 2 months, humans and Larians worked together, creating hybrid technologies that neither species would have developed alone. The Battle of Tourist Hub proved the value of their cooperation. The Vex arrived with their new ships, expecting to counter human randomness with overwhelming firepower. Instead, they faced weapons and tactics they couldn't have anticipated. During the battle, Lieutenant Ryan Kelly noticed a damaged Larian cruiser drifting toward the main Vex fleet. Despite orders to maintain his position, he broke formation and flew to rescue the Larian ship. "What are you doing, Lieutenant?" demanded Admiral Powell over the comm. "Following a hunch, sir," replied Kelly as he positioned his fighter to shield the Larian vessel. As he defended the cruiser, Kelly discovered something unexpected. His position gave him a clear view of how Vex ships communicated with each other. He noticed light patterns similar to Larian communication, but in reverse colors. "Admiral, I can see their command signals," he reported excitedly. "They're coordinating using light pulses." This discovery changed everything. By the end of the battle, human and Larian ships were jamming Vex communications, causing confusion in their fleet. Once again, the Vex retreated. After the battle, Admiral Powell confronted Lieutenant Kelly. "You disobeyed a direct order." "Yes, sir," admitted Kelly. "I had a feeling that Larian ship was important. You got lucky this time, but your hunch gave us vital intelligence on Vex communications." The Larian captain Kelly had saved later approached him. "In 400 years of fighting, we never considered having a hunch. Perhaps this is why we called for help, not just for your ships, but for your human way of thinking." As news of their victories spread, more alien species began to contact the Human-Larian alliance. Some offered help, others simply watched with interest. The galaxy was changing. But even with their successes, everyone knew the truth. They were still just fighting the edges of the Vex Empire. To truly win the war, they would need to strike at the heart of the enemy. And no one knew where that was. 3 years into the war, the combined fleet had won dozens of battles. They had freed 5 star systems from Vex control and protected many others. But everyone knew they were just delaying the inevitable. "We're winning battles, not the war," said Commander Allison Ward during a strategy meeting on Haven. Now leading all tactical operations, she had a clear view of their situation. "For every Vex ship we destroy, they build 3 more." The holographic display showed the known Vex territory, a vast dark cloud spreading across one arm of the galaxy. The Human-Larian alliance controlled a small bright area pushing against this darkness. "We need to strike at their center," Ward continued. "Find whatever controls the Vex and eliminate it." The problem was simple. No one knew where the Vex central mind was located. 4 centuries of Larian intelligence had failed to find it. Dr. Marcus Jordan, who had been studying Vex biology, spoke up. "We've captured pieces of Vex technology. Their ships are partly biological, connected to a central consciousness. What if we use that connection to find them?" His plan was dangerous but brilliant. Captured Vex neural material could be modified and connected to a volunteer's mind, creating a two-way link that might be traced back to its source. "You want someone to let Vex material into their brain?" asked Admiral Powell, looking shocked. "With careful controls, yes," replied Jordan. "We would limit the connection, use it like a tracking device, and then sever it." The Larians were horrified. Trelna's entire body darkened with concern. "In our culture, mental sovereignty is sacred. We would never permit such a violation." That's why it has to be human volunteers, said Jordan. We're willing to take risks others won't. Despite the clear danger, hundreds of human soldiers volunteered immediately. 20 were selected based on their mental strength and neural compatibility. Captain Noah Winters was among them. My flight experience gives me strong visualization skills, he explained during his evaluation. If I can see what the Vex see, maybe I can understand where they are. The procedure took place in a heavily shielded chamber. Dr. Jordan attached modified Vex neural matter to the volunteers' brain stems. Each person was then placed in a medically induced coma to allow the connection to form without overwhelming their consciousness. Now we wait, said Jordan after the final volunteer was connected. For 8 days, the volunteers lay in their medical pods, their brain activity carefully monitored. Sometimes they would twitch or call out in their sleep. Once, Winters screamed so loudly they almost woke him up. On the 9th day, Winters suddenly sat up, his eyes wide open. He tore off his monitoring equipment and began writing coordinates on the wall with a medical marker. When he could finally speak clearly, he looked at Dr. Jordan with haunted eyes. It's not a planet, he gasped. They live inside a star, a dying neutron star. They feed on its energy. The other volunteers gradually awoke, all confirming the same location. The combined data gave them precise coordinates to the heart of the Vex Empire. Admiral Powell studied the star charts with Commander Ward. This neutron star is surrounded by the heaviest defenses I've ever seen, and the radiation would kill any living thing that gets close. Then we don't send living things, said General Montgomery, who had been quietly listening. The most ambitious plan yet was formed, Operation Sunbreaker. They would strike directly at the Vex central consciousness, hidden inside the neutron star. As the fleet prepared, Captain Winters struggled with nightmares from his brief mental connection to the Vex. What did you see in there? Asked Dr. Rodriguez, finding him alone on an observation deck. I saw their thoughts, Winters replied quietly. They don't hate us. They don't feel anything. We're just resources to be consumed, like everything else in the galaxy. That's why we have to stop them, said Rodriguez. Winters nodded. I saw something else too. When they sensed human minds touching theirs, they were confused. They've never encountered anything like us before. Is that good or bad? I don't know, said Winters, staring out at the stars. But I think we're about to find out. The neutron star glowed an angry blue against the blackness of space. Around it swarmed thousands of Vex ships, protecting the heart of their empire. Conventional attack is impossible, said the Larian Grand Admiral, his crystalline body dimming with doubt. No living being can survive that radiation. General Montgomery smiled. Who said anything about sending living beings? The plan was uniquely human, bold, desperate, and unlike anything the Vex could anticipate. 100 volunteers would transfer their minds into android bodies designed to withstand the extreme conditions near the star. These machine bodies would carry a special weapon, a mathematical virus created by Larian scientists and human programmers working together. In the preparation chamber, Captain Noah Winters stood with the other volunteers. Some prayed. Others made jokes to hide their fear. All knew that this mission was likely one way. The odds of success are 11%, Dr. Rodriguez told them honestly. The chance of your consciousness returning to your biological bodies is even lower, about 3%. Winters nodded. Better odds than doing nothing. The transfer process was quick but strange. One moment Winters was in his human body. The next he was looking through electronic eyes at his own unconscious form lying on a medical table. His android body was silver and black, built for strength and speed. He felt no pain, no fatigue, no fear, just a clear sense of purpose. Remember, said Admiral Powell to the 100 android soldiers, no matter what happens today, Earth sent us. When the galaxy called, we answered. The operation began with a massive attack by the combined fleet, drawing most of the Vex ships away from the star. Meanwhile, the android team launched in small radiation-shielded vessels designed to look like debris. As they approached the neutron star, the true scale of the Vex defenses became clear. Massive structures orbited the star, drawing energy from it and feeding the Vex network. "They've built a Dyson sphere," said Lieutenant Kelly, "now also in an android body. They're using the entire star as a power source." The androids breached the outer defenses, their small ships weaving between Vex patrols. 23 were destroyed in the first wave of defense. 17 more fell to automated weapons, but the remaining 60 pushed forward. As they reached the main containment system, a massive ring structure around the star, the Vex finally realized what was happening. 50 more androids were destroyed in the brutal counterattack. Only 3 remained: Winters, Kelly, and Rodriguez. They fought their way to the central control node, a pulsing black mass that seemed to bend reality around it. "This is it," said Winters, "the Vex central mind." As they approached, something unexpected happened. The Vex consciousness reached out to them, not with weapons, but with thoughts. "It sees us," transmitted Winters to the waiting fleet. "It's afraid." The Vex central mind, faced with something it couldn't understand, tried to negotiate. Images flowed into the androids' minds, offers of knowledge, power, even a form of immortality if they would simply turn back. Winter's response was simple: "We didn't come to talk." Together, the 3 survivors uploaded the mathematical virus directly into the Vex neural network. It wasn't designed to destroy, but to rewrite, introducing concepts alien to the hive mind: empathy, individuality, and choice. As the last android bodies failed under the intense radiation, Winters sent a final message: "We came because someone asked for help. That's the answer to your question, Vex. That's humanity." Across the galaxy, Vex ships suddenly stopped attacking. Drone worlds fell silent. The collective that had threatened all life for centuries experienced something entirely new: doubt. 6 months later, the first message arrived from former Vex space: "We are not what we were. You changed us. We wish to understand why." The Larians, bewildered by this turn of events, looked to their human allies for guidance. Admiral Powell smiled as he drafted humanity's response: "This time, we'll send teachers, not soldiers." On Earth, monuments rose to honor the 100 volunteers whose minds never returned. Their names became symbols of the greatest human quality: the willingness to help others, no matter the cost. The galaxy had cried for help, and humanity had answered.